You look nervous, Adept. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you had suddenly gained a fear of the dark, something I would usually call rather pathetic. But considering who we are meeting with today, that fear is understandable. The members of House Delaque do tend to elicit that emotion in the weak-minded. As we wait for our silent partner, perhaps I should enlighten you with the history of this secretive house. It may help alleviate that worm of fear digging into your mind. Although, before I begin, please know that you should take whatever I say with a grain of salt. When it comes to House Delaque, even an Inquisitor can be misled while trying to uncover its secrets. There are many theories bandied about on the origins of Clan Delaque, many of them perhaps planted by the house itself to add to its mystique. Are its members a result of a rogue tech priest's genetic experiments? Xenos hiding in human skin? Perhaps they are even warp spawn aiming to lead people away from the Emperor's light. There is no way to know for sure if these or any of the other theories about the clan house are true, but out of all of them, there is one that I feel is the closest to the mark. The tale of the drowned empire. Long ago, before our ancient ancestors on Earth took on forms that would even vaguely resemble human, Necromunda was an ocean world, its waters deep, clear, cold, and brimming with monsters. But not just the monsters you would see on other worlds, like the Krakens of Fenris. No, in the darkest depths of this ocean were creatures that some would heretically call gods. These beings were ancient, and behaved in ways that would be considered incomprehensible to human minds, and as they worked towards some unknown purpose, they were attended to by their mortal servants, Xenos who served them faithfully like loyal lapdogs. But at some point in the world's history, the oceans of Necromunda began to slowly evaporate, and it was feared by these servants that their gods might be in danger. To keep their gods safe, these servants dug underground cities in the darkest depths of the ocean, close to the world's very core, and with their gods secured and slumbering, these servants chose to die, but not before ensuring that they would rise again, to awaken their gods when the time was right. The look you'll give me, Adept, tells me you think my story is unlikely, which is fair. The idea that Necromunda was once an ocean world must seem ridiculous to you. But if you want a bit of evidence, consider the failed expedition of Lady Lucaria of House Tai that happened, 700 or so years ago. The lady and her retinue had gone down in search of the fabled ancient city of the Iron Lords. What she found instead is unknown. The only being to return from that journey was a barely functioning servitor, with one splintered fragment of a memory, one of a great shadow slumbering beneath a subterranean sea. Now, where was I? Ah, right. Eons passed and eventually, the planet that would be known as Necromunda came to know the touch of humanity. And like on so many other worlds, humans had their petty little wars of conquest, built great cities, and lived in ignorance of what Necromunda had once been. And as the humans played above, the sea gods slept below, waiting for their time to rise once again. And that moment came with the passing of the rogue planet Sumnus. Now the veil between the materium and the immaterium on Necromunda has always been thin. Because of this, during certain celestial events, it's not unknown for the warp to make its presence known on the world. So when the rogue planet Sumnus passed through the system, the power of the warp allowed for a message from the past to touch the minds of the susceptible in the present. As hive quakes, ash storms, and other natural disasters distracted the common Necromundan citizen, no one noticed as a few tens of thousands of souls had their minds caressed by dark whispers. It mattered not if these souls were the lowest of the drudge class, or the wealthiest of overseers. They all felt compelled to leave their duties, and wander into the dark depths of the hive. Most who witnessed this strange departure assuming these obviously addled individuals lost to the horrors below. These wandering souls didn't stay lost for long, however. Soon enough, gangs of pale outlanders appeared near remote underhive settlements, and within the various hives, willowy figures in dark robes flowed through the hive's depths. And as they appeared, they slowly started taking turf and industries from gangs and smaller clans, slowly increasing their power base. But this wasn't done through force of arms, but through infiltration and manipulation. These individuals seem to have a knack for convincing people to view things from their point of view, a skill they used to great effect to cause the fall of the once prominent clan House Avaris. The members of clan House Avaris, as many did during this time, thought little of these strange newcomers. They were after all a powerful clan house, and could easily crush these upstarts if they dare threaten their holdings. And holdings they had aplenty, as they had many enterprises on Necromunda, the most notable of which, and the one which made them a target of these upstarts, being the production and distribution of the psychotropic drug known as Gast. By the beginning of the 38th millennium, the infiltration of House Avaris was well underway, and its leadership were making decisions that more favored their mysterious advisors. Soon, the industries of the clan house were altered to suit the Delaque, moving from heavy industry and hive trade to focusing almost exclusively on the manufacture of Gast. And during this time, the Delaque changed further, becoming even paler with skin tones ranging from pale gray to almost pure white. They had also become utterly hairless, and began favoring heavy concealing clothing that many believed possibly hid further mutations. Their manipulations of such a prominent house and the changes to their outward appearance led many to petition the governor to investigate the Delaque for possible warp taint and collusion with the dark powers, calls that would be ignored until late M38, when Vortress Heffram, a man who styled himself the last free lord of House Avaris, called in every favor he had to bring the full force of the Imperial House and the Adeptus Terra upon these interlopers. Sadly for Vortus, this was less of a crusade and more of a ragged alliance of smaller clan houses, hired guns, and religious extremists. A rabble that had little chance of dislodging such a well-hidden foe, and did more to reveal to the Delaque their potential enemies than anything else. Many suspect that the Delaque struck some sort of deal with Governor Helmoir to ensure this crusade wasn't as effective as it could have been. Whatever the reason for the crusade's shortcomings, this less than impressive force would soon face what would become known as the Crawling Shadow, referring to the times when the Delaque used all of their skills to bring down their enemies. Skills they are now famous for. First as spies and information brokers, making it their business to know the unknown, and secondly as masters of sabotage and assassination, allowing them to commit crimes without detection, or even under the guise of other houses. Soon assassinations, worker uprisings, sabotage, and other calamitous events struck the Crusader forces and their allies, ultimately resulting in their defeat and the fall of House Avaris. And with their fall came the rise of the newly arisen clan house Delaque to take Avaris holdings as their own, a house many would come to call the House of Shadows. As for Vortus, his fate is unknown, but I assume his final days were rather unpleasant. House Delaque soon became an integral part of Necromundan society, and their hand was felt in every pivotal moment in the world's history. When the houses of Ansar and Escher created the Goliaths, the Delaque did all they could to ensure the Goliaths gained their freedom and rose in power, as if they knew the Goliaths would always be a thorn in those houses' sides. When House Orlok dug too deep and discovered things best left forgotten, it was the Delaque who made sure those rare and terrible objects wound up in the hands of those who would cause the most damage. And when the radical redemption cult subsumed House Cawdor, it was the members of House Delaque who offered aid to pilgrims seeking to add to the ranks of the faithful. It seemed that whenever there was a chance for a destabilizing force to affect Necromunda, the Delaque were there to ensure that force had all it needed to reach its full potential. Although the Delaque, like other clan houses, do have many industries under their control, those industries are mainly for their personal use. Mining for resources, factorums for the manufacturing of basic goods, and drug production for substances that don't require the expertise of House Escher, such as Gast. And most who work in these industries don't even realize they work for the Delaque, many believing they work for another house entirely. A state of ignorance most remain in, until the members of House Delaque find one of these working wretches worthy of recruitment. Amongst the drudges that work the various industries of the house, there are tales of individuals known as the Lost, family and friends who suddenly disappear, never to be seen again, as if some terror from the depths of the hive had taken them. And considering the ultimate fate of these lost, that's not far from the truth. These lost are actually taken by the Delaque and led down through the hidden levels concealed in the spaces between domes, power relays, and Promethean megaconduits, stepping over carefully laid traps and bypassing subterranean horrors to reach an area far underneath the hive known as the Deeps. This dark subterranean region holds an almost sacred place in the minds of the Delaque, a sanctuary beyond the reach of the other houses, where their most precious secrets can be hidden. And it is here where the members of the house can commune with the device known as a Psychoterica. Now I say device, but that's an assumption on my part. For all I know, it might just be a particularly pretty rock that was dug up from the ash wastes, or a dredged bit of salvage uncovered from the depths of the sumps. Whatever its origin and design, it is central to everything that it means to be Delaque. Upon touching the device, the lost mind is blasted with a psychic echo that allows them to commune with the ancient gods of Necromunda's past, beings the Delaque have come to call the Silent Ones. The echo implants a psychic seed within the mind of the lost soul that inserts ancient memories and slowly alters their very thoughts. And it is this psychic seed that truly makes the members of House Delaque who they are, connecting them together in a sort of gestalt consciousness. It's not a hive mind, as they are still all individuals, but it allows them to communicate their feelings and ideas with but a glance, and also recognize anyone else who has touched the Psychoterica. Because of this connection, they barely speak amongst themselves. This connection usually enough to convey their intentions, but for the few times where words are necessary, and they believe they weren't being observed, they seem to speak in an ancient and noble tongue, one that is most definitely not human in origin. Each passing cycle after the implantation, the psychic seed within the lost grows, stripping away more and more of their humanity, and leaving behind what is essentially a Xenos-human hybrid mind. And as their minds are changed, their bodies also undergo a transformation. The lost are subjected to mutagenic gene conditioning that turns their skin pale and removes all body hair. Although whether these changes to their outward appearance are intentional, or a side effect of the gene conditioning's possible true purpose is unknown. Finally, their eyes are replaced with cybernetic enhancements, perhaps because the Silent Ones view human eyes as woefully inadequate. Once their transformation is complete, these laws become known as ghosts, the rank and file of the clan, the ones most likely to be encountered by the common citizenry of Necromunda, acting as middlemen between the clan house and those who would desire the house's services. Now, not all of these former lost remain as ghosts. Some do advance to a higher rank, but unlike other clans or organizations, this advancement isn't due to merit or familial connections, but due to their increased connection to the Psychoterica, the Delaque gaining a deeper understanding of the will of the Silent Ones through continued service or natural talent. If a deeper connection is felt, the ghost advances to the rank of Phantom, and is given the honor of being equipped with the best weapons available to the clan. But Weapon Bearer isn't their most important role. Their true purpose comes about with the death of one of their own. When a Delaque falls in battle, the Phantom rushes to their side and performs what to outsiders would be viewed as a funeral rite. But the truth is that the Phantom is working as a conduit between the dying and the Silent Ones, allowing the Elder's beings to perhaps take something from the dying soldiers before they pass on. Those closest to the Psychoterica are known as Masters of Shadows, and as the name implies, they are masters of lies and subterfuge, so skilled at deceit that they tend to pass themselves off as ghosts, with only those they directly command knowing exactly what they are. They also have a well-deserved reputation as deadly fighters, and many of the claims of them vanishing at will, walking through walls, and freezing enemies with just a glance, claims that are at least partially true, as many Masters of Shadows are known to be psychers. And even amongst these Masters of Shadows, there are those who are much more influential than others, those who have the highest connection to the Psychoterica. These few form a ruling body known as the Star Chamber, and are seen by all members of the house as living embodiments of the Silent One's will. Although the Masters of Shadows are the most in tune with the will of the Silent Ones, that doesn't mean the connection can't be muddled. They are still technically human, and human desires can still influence their decisions. so it is not unheard of for 2 or more Masters of Shadows to be at cross purposes, as they each interpret the will of the Silent Ones differently. Now, not all Delaque are part of this hierarchy. There are those who are especially skilled, that are given much more independence to pursue the clan's interests. The most talented assassins and spies of the clan become known as Not Ghouls. They are charged with hiding sensitive pieces of information, uncovering the deepest secrets of the house's enemies, and removing obstacles that unwisely get in the clan's way. Skilled killers and saboteurs, they are known to use chems to change their physical appearance. But these changes aren't made to make them look like a specific individual, but simply allow them to blend into a crowd, to become one more easily overlooked face among the masses after their task is done. Other members of the house may have an immediate deep connection with the will of the Silent Ones as soon as they join the clan. You may think that this would instantly elevate them to a Master of Shadows, but this is not so. Their connection is so deep that they have essentially become non-human, their words and actions sometimes incomprehensible to even other members of the house. These Psy-Guys are especially skilled in the manipulation of minds, taking great delight in driving their enemies insane. They are also skilled in controlling the strange creations of the house, such as the Psychoteric worm, which is able to squeeze into tight places and burrow through enemy defenses and flesh with ease, or the Cephalod Spectre, a floating horror whose mind is grown from a sample of the handler's synaptic tissue. But the most terrifying of these crafted creatures is the Piscean Spectre, born not from a human mind, but from that of a Xenos. At some point in Necromunda's past, a Xenos race, one humanity would later dub the Pisceans, arrived on this world, and they immediately began fighting the human empire that existed on the world before the coming of the Imperium. The two races eventually reached some sort of accord, and once peace was established, the Pisceans simply settled in the deep oceans, never to be seen again. These Xenos eventually forgotten by humanity, but not by the beings that called them to Necromunda in the first place, the Silent Ones. For these Xenos were also worshippers of these ancient beings, and traveled across the depths of space to serve them. They remained hidden until the arrival of Somnus, and soon after, began meeting with those that would eventually become the Delaque, their shared connection to the Psychoterica bonding them in ways most heretical. Occasionally, one of these Pisceans will swim up from their watery home, and travel through miles of sludge and filth to arrive at the Underhive. And once they do so, they choose to die. But this isn't some form of ritualistic suicide. It is simply a chance to serve the Silent Ones in a new form. The dead Piscean's brain is removed by the Delaque, and placed within a cybernetic chassis known as a Piscean Spectre. Their connection to the Psychoterica, allowing them to swim through the air as they did in the water in their new cybernetic form. Now you're probably asking yourself, if I know the heresy of this clan house, why haven't I done my duty as an Inquisitor and persecuted them? Well, as I said before, the Delaque are masters of acquiring secrets, and they have made me aware that they had a few of mine that would come to light if I pursued them in any form, secrets that would end my duties as an Inquisitor, and also most likely my life. This may seem selfish to you, Adept, but know that I have done so much good for the Imperium, and the loss of someone of my experience would obviously be detrimental to the safety of this world. Still, I do have pangs of guilt, which is why we are having this conversation. The numerous talks we have had on the matter, allowing me to gain some perspective on my choices. Yes, I said numerous. This is not the first time we have had this conversation, Adept, and it most likely won't be the last. For I am human, and even someone as strong-willed as I have bouts of weakness, which is why someone whose mind is easily manipulated by psychic powers proves to be an effective soundboard. Now hold still. I need to wipe your recent memory before the arrival of our guests. I will be honest, it will be extremely painful. But on the bright side, you won't even remember it. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on House Delaque and Necromunda, which is, after putting all this work in my video, is probably my second favorite house, right after Vansar, but it's very, very close. If you like it, please, if you like the video, Please like, subscribe, comment, press that little bell so the YouTube guys know I exist, and hopefully more people can see my content. And if you really like it and you are inclined, please consider giving a little money to my Patreon or my Coffee account. The extra money gives me a chance to work on these stories I love. Anyway, thanks for listening/watching, and see you next time.